Welcome. This will be my completely spoiler-free, for the show at least, review of the brand new 2026 MCU miniseries on Disney Plus, Wonder Man. I am probably going to spoil at least some of the MCU leading up to, but not including any of this show itself. The show is rated TV-14, so will this video be. I love this show. I'm gonna try to not just over and over say that I love it. I'm gonna try to describe it enough that there are people who will not enjoy this, and I'm gonna see if I can't help people determine if that is the case. I just finished watching the video by I always forget exactly what her channel. I think it was her Break Room of Geeks, not Council of Geeks channel, but Vera Wild's video on this. She was not the biggest fan, but she explained it really well why. I would also recommend, oh, and do note, there are some spoilers in that video. The same thing goes for the video by Ellis Menezes, that's how I pronounce his name, and FilmSpeak. But then there's the spoiler-free review by the Nando Cut. All of these videos are really, really excellent. Oh, right, and Fantastic Frankie. There are spoilers in that one, and it's a really, really solid video. Yes, I am gonna start with. So I guess I'll just briefly note, I have recorded what I call thoughts videos on each of these, all 8 episodes of this. So if you want to see me talking spoilers, the link in the description box will to the playlist for Wonder Man videos has got you covered. So basically, someone at Marvel took a look at Wonder Man and tried to figure out what they could do, because it is one of those things where this is a character that you might have expected would have appeared in the MCU way sooner, because he's really significant. He's very important to some of the characters and relationships that have had a bunch of appearances, But he's also one of those that it's a little difficult to figure out exactly what to do with in the current, in the way things look now in the MCU. And I am honestly very happy that they did not do something, kind of straightforward with him as they would have if they had gotten him a movie, years and years ago instead of this show. Because I think this is substantially more interesting and different. I'm not going to go over all the different aspects of it, but there's some significant differences between this iteration of Wonder Man and the comic book. So, yeah, if you know enough, you can look it up on your own, but there's, yeah, they played around with elements in a way that I thought was delightful. But yeah, basically, Simon Williams is an aspiring actor, and it is essentially one of those things of he is too much in his own head. He is too worried about things, and we do come to understand why that is. And that kind of, there's some self-sabotage. This is not a spoiler. That's one of the very first things you learn about him at all. And yeah, like, ultimately, there is some story of self-actualization, which is, of course, in media in general, that is a popular type of story to tell. And a lot of these sort of super-powered individual origin stories have some element of that. And yeah, it's I'm not at all the first person to make this observation, but this is very character driven. You know, the MCU, there have been times where they kind of got lost. They forgot that, I mean, yeah, the spectacle is cool and all, but we're here for the characters. I mean, if all we want is spectacle, there's other places to get that. You know, there are franchises out there that deliver on that, but not really character. And, you know, they don't tend to get as big as the MCU. You know, if you go back to Phase 1, it was very much about the characters. It was, yeah, and that was a major reason why it became so successful. Like, I know people who would never open a comic book under any circumstances who love Iron Man 1 because, like, yeah, it's a, you know, they got into the story and the characters and the fact that, you know, you have this, yeah, the specifics, the comic booky stuff. They were like, okay, sure, I'll, you know, I can roll with that. But they were there for, yeah. And yeah, basically, you know, the setup, you know, you will very quickly know if this is your kind of thing. The you know, so as mentioned, you know, Vera Wild, she talked about how the first 10 minutes of this show were some of what bothered her the most. And yeah, it's definitely, you're either gonna get into the show pretty quickly or you're not really gonna. I'm not sure how much it's going to grow on people, though. You know, if you especially hate those first 10 minutes, like, you may want to give it just a little bit more time because it does change. Now, the psychological accuracy is really, really great. This is a character study of both Simon and Trevor Slattery, who I really love what Destin Daniel Cretton has done with, because this was a character, like, I loved him from the start. The moment I saw the trailers for Iron Man 3, I was 100% on board. But then they, you know, they had some. I don't have very much negative to say about his portrayal in Iron Man 3, but it definitely was one of those cases where I would never have guessed that we got so much more depth to him after that. You know, I really enjoyed the one shot. I can never remember what it's called. My research is sort of check right now. I think it's something like All Hail the King, which was where they started to add more dimension to him. And then, you know, he was really, really great in the Shang-Chi solo movie, you know. And here, like, this is the first time that we are allowed to just sit with Trevor, to actually spend time with him, where there isn't just like a bunch of exposition or danger or stuff, you know. And I mean, if I have to tell you that Sir Ben Kingsley is an unbelievably talented actor, like, I don't know, I mean, welcome to the, like, watch something he's done. I literally don't think I've ever seen him do a bad job. I've seen him be great in stuff that I didn't otherwise like, where he was like, oh, finally, he's on screen again. Now I can get into it, you know, kind of thing. But this is one of the first times where he really got to, in the MCU, where he really got to show how great he is. And there is this wonderful bromance between these two characters, and it just works. I was not expecting to get so invested in that. And the, yeah, you know, it is Black History Month. I tried to find something to say in each of these videos about, yeah, like, one of the things with Simon, there are elements that I don't think I want to go into because they could spoil, but there's aspects where you could, I mean, this character was not black in the comics. He was yet another white guy, and I really appreciate, like, I don't think that you have to change something to, like, I think more diversity in media is inherently a plus, except for when you're doing it really badly. Like, fairly recently, I think it was, or maybe it's just me just finally getting around to watching it, Little Shop of Ali did a video on the Vampire Diaries, and yeah, representation, yeah, that was really, yeah, please listen to the black woman talking about what it's like being a minority and how representation for minority goes instead of the cishet white guy. But while I don't think it's necessary to do, I do think it can be very beneficial, and here they do. Like, there are aspects, we do meet some of Simon's family, and it is very much this thing of, like, these are immigrants and they are human beings. That shouldn't have to be said out loud, but there are so many people still, like, even as we're seeing how horrible ICE is, how completely out of control they are. Yeah, there's still people defending them. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it is just a coincidence that Simon's family on this show are literally Haitian. They speak, I hope I pronounce this right, Haitian Creole to each other sometimes. Creole. I'm sorry. I would look it up if not for my sore wrists. I really mean no disrespect. But yeah, and they're not treated as like, oh, look at how other they are. They are probably scary and dangerous, and some fool who just needs to look better for where their cat has gone instead of spreading wild rumors online is going to say that, oh, maybe I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, I really appreciated that. And this is a good time to say I appreciate the show is one of Disney's attempt at woke washing. They are not completely earnest about this. They do not appreciate the importance of being earnest. They need to treat their employees better. They need to stand up to Trump more. But I do appreciate, I do think sometimes the right thing done for the wrong reason can still have a positive impact. There's probably people who watch this and don't really think about Disney's politics and instead internalize these values. And, like, yeah, it might mean they also support Disney for something, and ignore something Disney is doing wrong, but it can be a positive. Yeah, the show is, there's a authenticity to it fits within the MCU, but does also feel like just real people existing, in a way that has not been a big enough part of the MCU recently. And it stays so true to itself. Maybe I need a thesaurus for Christmas, but I'm going to repeat. I believe it was Filmspeak who kept using the word sincere about the show. And it is so very true. It really is. And that's something that just, yeah, there's too much winking and nudging in these recent, and that's not purely the MCU, though the MCU is a pretty harsh offender in that regard. But yeah, like here, like, yeah, there are MCU style jokes, nearly all of them remain true to the characters. Like, yeah, there are a bunch of jokes with Simon and, unsurprisingly, also with Trevor, but they come from who they are. It doesn't, like, I think there's maybe once where there was a joke where it was like, okay, that didn't really have anything to do with that specific character. And the rest of the time, yeah, like, it really is just so organic, you know? And it's not trying to constantly make you laugh. That was also sometimes a problem with these MCU, you know, entries. And yeah, like, it finds a really good mix of comedy and drama. The level of detail is great. Like, you really do get a strong sense of, the production within the movie within the show. And yeah, I really hope that we get more like this. The just the positive qualities I've mentioned of just having more of a heart. And like, I really love that this really is not so much a superhero action story, so much as a story about a person who happens to have superpowers and struggles. It is. Yeah. If they made another 10 miniseries, I'm acknowledging I don't know if they could make a movie quite like this. I think that might be if that might be too big of a risk, because when people go to see an MCU movie, they do expect action. But for at least some of these shows, it could definitely work to just have, because like, you have enough. Like, listen, if you're and that's the thing. Like, if to you MCU means big action set pieces, this show is not for you. And I don't think that's an insult to you or a criticism of this show that makes that much sense. Like, watch the marketing. Like, what gave you the idea that this would be like action packed? Actually, I don't think I gave but by the time I had watched the entire show, I really appreciated the marketing more. Like, at first, I wasn't entirely sure. Like, it seemed fun enough, and I thought it did a really good job making clear that this is not, going to be another action story within I'm not saying it's completely devoid of action, but if yeah, I've made my point. Moving on. So yeah, the dialogue is, good, sometimes great. I would say the delivery is always really solid. There are a few times where some of the writing is okay, but it's rare that it's less than at least pretty good. And I really appreciated how many of the laughs were derived from just dialogue, and again, how it comes from the way this is how this would play out. Like, you put these two characters together in this situation, yeah, this is how it would go. And that's also something I really appreciated. This does not feel the need to constantly have plot twists. Like, there are some, but it's not really about like, oh, bet you didn't see that coming. And it's also so small scale. Like, it's such personal stakes. This is about Simon wanting this role, wanting it to go well. And that is enough, not for every individual person viewing this, but again, hopefully by the end of this review you will know if this is your kind of thing or not. But yeah, like for his character for this show and for me and a number of other people, like, yeah, because he's very human and very relatable. Like, I think probably all at one point or another in our lives, yeah, we it's not going to be overthinking for everyone, but like we can all end up like just missing something important and maybe engaging in more or less self-destructive behavior. And, to have someone there who can help guide you is wonderful. It's I noted that in the I think it was technically a red carpet kind of thing, I believe it was Sir Ben Kingsley who talked about how he and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who also continues to be amazing. Like, I could watch him in, comic book stuff and horror, like the Candyman reboot quill, forever. He is just so unbelievably talented. And yeah, he and Sir Ben Kingsley both, they did not want to win scenes that they performed in together. They wanted to make the other one look good. And as soon as I heard Sir Ben Kingsley say that, immediately I was like, that's it though. That's 100%. Like, both in the regard that that's such a positive attitude to have. Like, I wish, that's the kind of thing that ideally all actors, everyone working in show business, like if all of them were like, let's make something amazing, let's make everyone who works on this look as good as possible, instead of all this individualist competition crap that just a lot of the time leads to worse final product, even if you don't care about the human side of it, if you're cynical and just want the product, And also that, yeah, like as soon as I heard him say that and I thought back to scenes, I was like, I see it. Yeah, totally. They are 100% working to make the other one look as good as possible. And it really works. Like, there's no trying to steal the spotlight. It's all about like the characters and the ultimate, yeah, how it ends up coming out. Some of this was directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who is one of the Hall of Famers of the MCU. Like, between the episodes of this he directs and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I can't wait to see Spider-Man 4. It is, I'm trying not to set my expectations too high, because it is, there are other things that could interfere, but I'm going to briefly talk about what he brings to the show as a director, but also how he informs the direction the others deliver, the directors of the other episodes. We see it in the Shang-Chi solo movie. I'm going to say that instead because it rolls off the tongue easier than the entire title, though the entire title is awesome. He has this really strong sense of visuals, and it doesn't exactly hurt that Shang-Chi the solo movie was shot by Bill Pope, If you haven't already, and you like Sam Raimi, watch Send Help. That was also shot by Bill Pope. And if you haven't, this is also a good time for me to recommend Jesse Gender's review of it. Now, the right now I forget if she mentions that there are at least some spoilers in her video. I only watch her video after watching the movie, but just be aware, at least some of that video of hers is best for watching after the movie. But for sure, like, she did a really great job, as usual. But this way that Destin Daniel Cretton has to make, just really put us right there in the world and have these like gorgeous shots and so much in the frame. And in Shang-Chi, the solo movie, at least some of the time it is, action scenes and it's like other kinds of spectacle. It's locations that are really spectacular and such. Here it is more like you might get like a tracking shot, kind of Brian De Palma-ish, of like, this is a big Hollywood production. Look at all these people who all have different jobs and such. But it really works for this. Like, more movies should be shot like this, honestly, and shows for that matter, since this is a show. And yeah, like, I can't get enough of the way that he shows superpowers. Like, it's the case in both of these, but in Shang-Chi, the solo movie, there is more of like, this is stunning of like action choreography also. That one also has more like overt special effects like CG and such. Where here, when we see superpowers, and I'm not going to give away how much there is of that, but that is also something, it's not, if you just want to see constant use of superpowers, this isn't really that. And there's other MCU stuff that has, so yeah. But he likes to show the way that the superpowers affect the world so that it feels more real, where a number of these MCU movies, they focus on, okay, this character is using their superpowers on this other character, and we'll just CG in the background, shoot it on green screen. And with Destin Daniel Cretton, you see real backgrounds and stuff actually being moved. A lot of it seems to be practical. It seems like whenever that was practical to do, that's what they went for. And it just feels like you're practically, you could practically reach out and touch these objects. It also never loses track of the story and the themes. I will admit there were times where I worried that it would, and it just never happened. Like, I really appreciate that there's things that do change over the course of it, but it never got lost. There's also no filler, in my opinion at least. And I think that pretty much covers that aspect. Let's see. I'll just briefly note, I already mentioned that the stakes are not very high, but they are very personal. One episode is genuinely like, it starts with Simon having to self-tape, and I guess I won't give away how much, but there's at least one thing that goes unexpectedly for that, and it's not exactly world-ending for, like, most people, but for Simon, this is the whole thing, and yeah, like, we really empathize with him because, like, all of us will at some point or another care about something, and then, maybe ourselves later, maybe other people will be like, is that really that important, but it feels like it, and that's part of life, like, and you're not even necessarily wrong. Like, sometimes it takes a while before, for other people or for yourself to fully appreciate how important something was. And I guess that I should briefly note, there is definitely some cringe comedy in this, so if that is not your kind of thing, it is probably I'll acknowledge I haven't watched all of them, but it is currently my personal favorite of stories where it's like, okay, so Hollywood, commenting on, like, Hollywood. Yeah, it's not always made by Hollywood, but commenting on how actors, think and the things they'll do to try to guarantee success and stuff like that. This felt the most genuine. Like I've seen several people, including people working on it, call it a love letter to Hollywood, and that is very, very much the case. That is abundantly clear here. And there are some, some in jokes and such that, is not going to work equally well for everyone. I thought most of it did work personally. I think that pretty much, yeah. So as far as editing goes, this uses flashbacks to really great effect, as well as elements that reappear more than some of these MCU, some of these, they do end up kind of losing focus and just trying to introduce, it's very, very obvious from a number of these. They have toys to sell, and this never felt like that. Like, I can't rule out that maybe there was some stuff sold, but it always felt earned, which is also, in my opinion, Daniel Cretton did a remarkable job hiding how much of Shang-Chi the solo movie was. Like, I noticed a couple of things where it's like, oh, wow, there sure are a lot of characters here who ultimately don't do that much, but, they're beloved in the comics, and someone took a look at the artwork and was like, we can sell toys of this, so we got to make sure people remember this character. Like Death Dealer, and I believe that's his name, and the I do not recall his name off the top of my head, but the guy with the arm sword thing, but I guess I'll briefly describe. So yeah, Death Dealer, who helps train Shang-Chi in the flashbacks, and then they have a fight, and Shang-Chi, looks like he might kill him or something. That Shang-Chi would kill Death Dealer. I think there's some delicious, just like smash cuts and such, and stuff that's trimmed down to where there really isn't any wasted time. Like, there's stuff that goes on for longer than you might think, that lingers a little, that is given room to breathe. I would argue it's never wasted time. Like, I never felt like, some of these, you can tell it's like, okay, you maybe had a little bit too much to make a feature film, but not quite enough for as many episodes as you did. I never felt like that here. Eight episodes, around 30 minutes each, so I don't know, 4 hours or so. They're not going to release a 4-hour movie, especially with these stakes in the MCU. But it didn't feel like, oh, you kind of just had 3 hours and you felt the need to, filler. And yeah, I appreciated how each episode had something, different that, let's see, I can never remember. I think that's part of why you should watch. I believe it was Elvis Menezes who talked about, let's see, serialization versus episodic or something like that. He explains it really well, so I'm not going to butcher and just restate his point. Just wanted to acknowledge that was definitely one of the positives of this, in my opinion, as well. Yeah, the production value is quite good. There's, they tend to only do things they can make look convincing. I'm not entirely sure what the budget was here, but, it's not like constant CG or anything. And yeah, set design, locations, costumes, and makeup are very well done and help convey things about the characters. You might see where someone lives, how they choose to decorate their office, that sort of thing. And the music is fantastic. This has some of the best needle drops I've seen in a while. And the sound design is really, really impressive. It is one of the ways you see the superpower stuff, and as such, because it's not very showy otherwise, at a lot of the time at least. Yeah, the sound design, crucial. And yeah, I thought they handled it, yeah, really, really well. There weren't really any characters that I just felt like, okay, it's not really, this character just doesn't really work for me. Like some of the minor or supporting roles, I wouldn't necessarily hate to have seen more of, but then, maybe they'll appear in something else down the line. And certainly, yeah, others have already noted, if the relationship between Simon and Trevor does not work, the show doesn't. And it really does. Like, yeah. And I also really appreciated seeing, yeah, Zlatko Burish again. It feels so weird to say, but I have been a fan of his for like 25, 30 years by now. And yeah, it was great how this found a balance between, he's one of those actors who can do really well at this kind of goofy, quirky, comedic role, but also, like, if you give him something heartfelt, he really will just make your jaw drop. Like, it's unreal how talented he is, and there's people who've only watched his comedic stuff and have no idea about the depth of his talent. And yeah, I really appreciate it. He plays a director. I've seen at least one person compare him to the character to Werner Herzog. I don't think I know quite enough about him to comment on that, but I wouldn't rule it out. I definitely got vibes of like a Kubrick, yeah. And I think those are the ones I want to mention. I really love the cameos. There's at least one person here who plays themselves, and it's very, very fun to see. As yeah. And yeah, the pacing does a good job. Like, there are times of this where there's very much this, I'm going to go ahead and just directly quote Elvis Menezes here, a sense of urgency. And then there are other times where it is kind of just letting us take something in. And the choice to have that felt very deliberate, because, like, obviously a sense of urgency is something a lot of the MCU has, or at least tries for. It doesn't always succeed. I've heard people say they didn't feel that during Endgame, which I guess I can see, which is too bad, because like that is one thing I do take issue with. I've seen at least one person. Yes, I'm still hung up on this 6.5, whatever years down the line. I saw at least one person say, "Oh, but where's the stakes?" Because like multiverse. Well, time travel though, they can't do it more. Like, for a chunk of that movie, they don't think they're going to be able to make more trips. So if they fail, that's it. Like, if anything, it's the largest stakes of any of the others, because in any of the others, well, there's other heroes who could come and take over, but if these few remaining heroes end up trapped in the past, that's it. Thanos wins, But anyway, yeah, in this show, like, it's very much, yeah, for Simon, this feels like the biggest thing ever. And so, and at other times, Trevor is helping him appreciate, just sit with the moment, And I think that does pretty much cover. Yeah, this was one of those cases where it neither felt toned down, nor like they were trying to include stuff that didn't really fit just to like appeal to teenagers or that sort of thing. And yeah, I appreciated the at least some of the show's politics. I guess I can't really say. Yeah, like if you at least some of the show's politics are fairly left-leaning. I guess I've more or less made that clear when I talked about, Haitian immigrants. But yeah, really appreciated that. I get into details about that in my thoughts videos. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully, how I did. Hopefully, this video does give you an idea of what the show is like, enough that you can tell if this is something that you would actually want to watch or not. I would rather talk someone out of watching something that I loved if it sounds to them based on my video that it's something they wouldn't love, and if they genuinely would not love it, then talk someone into watching something that I loved but they end up hating because I'm not getting into enough detail. So I'm going to briefly give briefly, we'll see, I guess. I'll try to keep it short, but by now there are so many shows. But the Disney Plus MCU shows and adjacent, some of these are just adjacent, from best to worst. So the overall season, did I say best? From worst to best. The overall show/season: Loki Season 1, What If Season 1, Secret Invasion, What If Season 2, Wakanda, What If Season 3, Hawkeye, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1, Ironheart, Loki Season 2, Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, Echo, Agatha, WandaVision, and Wonder Man. The finale, for ones that have ended their run, worst to best: Secret Invasion, Wakanda, What If Season 3, Hawkeye, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Echo, Ironheart, Loki Season 2, Moon Knight, hold on, Ms. Marvel, Agatha, WandaVision, Wonder Man. Wait, am I... Okay, I am just real quick going to have to double check something because I think I'm screwing this up slightly. I swear I will make this quick instead of taking a very long time to do it. I'm just trying to kill the dead air instead of... Where the heck did I put this? Okay, here we go. This should be... Am I missing a... Let's see. So if we... Maybe there isn't... It's just because I... There we go. That's right. I need to write this more clearly. I will do that after this. Okay, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to... Yeah. I guess Yeah, it was indeed not quite short. So I will... I'll have to start over because I completely screwed this up. Okay, so overall show season, worst to best. I'm going to try to speed run this since I got through most of it. Loki Season 1, What If Season 1, Secret Invasion, What If Season 2, Wakanda, What If Season 3, Hawkeye, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, Your Friendly Neighbor, Spider-Man Season 1, Ironheart, Marvel Zombies, that was the one I was forgetting, Loki Season 2, Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, Echo, Agatha, WandaVision, Wonder Man. Finale, for ones that have ended the run. Worst to best: Secret Invasion, Wakanda, What If Season 3, Hawkeye, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Echo, Marvel Zombies, Ironheart, Loki Season 2, Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, Agatha, WandaVision, Wonder Man. Pilot, or season opener, worst to best: What If, Loki, Wakanda, Echo, Hawkeye, Secret Invasion, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Ironheart, Marvel Zombies, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1, Moon Knight, Agatha, Ms. Marvel, WandaVision, and Wonder Man. I rate this 9 personal problems that aspiring actors have to go through in order to make it big out of 10.